In the tunnel.
In the tunnel.
In the tunnel. You're listening to In the Tunnel.
Hello and welcome to In the Tunnel, episode number 91. So I think that's
I don't have any jokes for 91. I've kind of run out of number jokes. I really don't know where I ever got them. But I'm out.
Hopefully they come back for when we hit like 100 or something.
Oh, dude, I'll create a whole list of 100 reasons why the fuck we somehow did this. And how we didn't, how despite all the breaks we took, we still didn't, decide to stop doing it and everything.
Yeah.
Now we only worked together for one damn episode.
Yeah. All right. So we're just going to jump straight in talking about the NFL. So
yeah, it's a football show today.
Yep. What's the first team on the docket?
All right, so let's just lead into this by saying last week, or whenever the fuck last episode was, last week,
2 weeks ago,
the last time that your cat died, any time that you last listened to a podcast that for some reason featured us, we chose a few teams of interest. We're kind of slowly knocking through some of the teams that might be of interest this year. Could be good, could be not. And will it be a train wreck? Will it be a success? And so, yeah, that's what we're doing. This week we have the Giants, Steelers, Saints, and Broncos. None of this has anything to do with me being a Steelers fan. It's purely just because the Steelers, I even have no fucking idea what they're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, we do gravitate towards the Steelers and Giants because those are the teams we watch.
Well,
but
in fairness, we don't really gravitate towards the Giants.
Yeah.
Mostly because, as diehard of a fan as you are, you're never diehard enough to, like, break out of business casual.
Nah.
Yeah. That's pretty much the reason why.
Yep. So, what team do we want to start with?
Let's start with the Giants.
All right. So the Giants, we still have Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley is supposed to be really good this year, but
yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah. So, and we'll touch on the fantasy impact later on, but
yeah,
in terms of what Saquon Barkley brings to the table, and do you believe him coming back is going to be? Do you think it's going to be fluid and not needing of transition, or do you think that he's going to take some time to get back going again?
I don't think he'll require that much time. I think you might have jittery, shaky transition for one game.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think as a running back you can command too much time to transition.
Right.
At
least not of his magnitude.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, he's a spectacular player. Like, he really should get into the groove of it, even during the one game, if at all, right? Like, sure, he can just start off, like, everybody's not going to be on the same timing, maybe, or whatever, but he should get into the groove of it as he takes another snap and another snap.
His ACL injury last year was relatively early in the season, right?
That's correct.
Right? Was like week 1 or 2?
It was pretty early.
Or if not preseason, so he should a whole calendar year. He should be okay by now.
Yeah, I mean,
the real question is still that offensive line.
The offensive line is a question, yeah. But the other the other, like, what else are the Giants looking at as far as a threat, right? Barkley just being in the game is a threat, but what of your wide receivers are ever going to step up to be somebody that Daniel Jones can hit? And can Daniel Jones actually, become consistent enough with hopefully a healthy Barkley for the season
Mm-hmm.
to make use of others via the pressure that Barkley just relieves from him?
Now, are you a Daniel Jones believer, though? That's the other big question.
I don't agree with when he was drafted, but that doesn't mean that he can't be good.
Do you think he's a game manager, or do you think he's better than average?
I think he can be better than average. I don't think he is better than average at the moment. I think he's like average.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. I think that the Giants are still waiting for him to take steps.
Yeah.
The thing is, where is a quarterback who was the first round pick, regardless of if he should have been going to take those steps?
Yeah. And I really don't think he's going to be your like spectacular quarterback that just does everything, but I do think he can be a better than average quarterback.
I would agree with that. My question then becomes, obviously O-line you said is a question, but defensively, are you guys good enough to, like, did you guys improve? Because the defense last year, it was about middle of the
Yeah.
pack. They had some good stretches, but they also at times were giving up some points. But like that stretch where they almost beat the Seahawks,
Yeah.
they were holding, they held like 4 or 5 straight teams to like under 20 points. So it's a building block thing, but do they have enough?
I mean, I don't think they got worse. So like I don't have a problem with the defense. The defense, like, if I think the offense is where most of the problem stems from, and it can be attributed that they don't have a good enough offensive line for Jones to work, sure. But now you also have Saquon Barkley. He's going to take some pressure off of the whole thing, right? Because you can fake him running some routes, and he'll just draw somebody. So does that make a difference? Like, I don't think the defense is necessarily a problem. Like this year compared to last year, I don't know of significant improvements.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking at the defense for significant improvements at the same time, right? I'm looking at the offense to make the strides.
So I mean, what would your prediction then be for the Giants? Do you think that they, because what were they last year? Like 6-10,
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
it's like 6-10 or something. I
Somehow in line to potentially make the playoffs.
I mean, when I look at the Giants, I'm like, I can hope for like an 8-8 or whatever. Did they add a week yet? I don't even remember.
Yes, this year as a week.
Oh, okay. So somewhere around 500, 8, 9, 9, 8, whatever it will be. I think that's realistic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think like 10, 11 wins is realistic. Especially not with what Daniel Jones has shown. But like they can come out with a positive record this year. I'm just looking for improvement on last season. Like, but I don't think they've made moves or strides with their players to bring us to like definite contenders of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it would be, which is weird because the Giants were always in a position with Eli Manning, regardless of how bad or good his season was. They were always in a
But
position.
that wasn't
Right
always due to
there.
Eli Manning. That was mostly due to how bad the rest of the division was too.
Nothing's really changed there.
I know.
So you can't really say like, that division win is the peak, because it could also be like, the ceiling or the
Yep.
floor too. because the floor could just keep going down and down and down.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so let's move on to the next one. We'll just jump into the Steelers and get it over with. I went to a training camp session not too long ago. It was cool, but I'm not exactly sure what the fuck the Steelers do because like they have wide receivers in Claypool and Juju, but it all depends on how Ben utilizes them. If Ben's going to be in the shotgun every play of every game again, like last year, you might as well just call it a season. I
Yeah.
know Ben took the pay cut. He wanted to be back, yada, yada, yada. The new offensive coordinator. It doesn't mean shit if the man doesn't fucking line up in single back.
Uh-huh.
Or like the guy you can't hand the ball off in the shotgun every time you do a running play and be like, wow, I can't believe it's not working. As you give fucking people like and apparently Ben has a fucking tell on when he's passing and running based off of the placement of his back foot.
I
So
mean, especially as he's getting older, I can believe that.
yeah, so unless Ben puts the team first, this is null and void. I believe that Ben wants to put the team first, but I don't believe that Ben is actually going to do anything other than say that he wants to put the team first, because that's what Ben's always been.
Okay, what about the rest of the core? Because we know, like, they have wide receivers, especially in Smooth
Yeah,
Schuster, right?
they don't have a good offensive line, and for some reason they're still shuffling around everybody there. They
Okay.
apparently have a center that they drafted in the third round that they think very highly of, but he's too small to be a center. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Um, but yeah, I don't know how a guy is like he was a guard in college, but also played center. Sometimes when guys went down, and they're like, "Oh, he's tall enough to be a guard, but not a center." It's like I don't understand. Isn't aren't you lining up against the same people for the most part? It's like nose guard or nose tackle.
All right, and running backs are okay?
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
Najee Harris
Yeah.
now. I wouldn't say they have an embarrassment of riches, but if he stays healthy, they'll be fine.
Yep.
The defense looks good despite losing some pieces, and the punter is 255 pounds. So, but he might be the best punter that they've had in the last 50 years because he can actually pin somebody inside the 20-yard line.
Yeah.
Like the last punter who was really good at finding the 20-yard line. It's like you do understand that the goal is to get it near the end zone. You don't have to like do like touchback where it lands in the end zone or straight on the 20-yard line. There are choices here. You can kick it close to there.
Yep. Uh-huh.
I
All right, so
see
what do you think
I
of
see
the
9 and
team
8.
for, like, compared to the rest of your division for the season?
I think they'll take second or third in the AFC North. I think they'll take 9 and 8. Maybe give or take a game either way, 8 and 9 or 10 and 7.
Okay.
So we'll see.
All
And
right.
then you want to move over? We got Saints now.
Yeah, let's talk the Saints. So I'm pretty sure they just confirmed their week one starter in Jameis Winston, right?
Mhm.
So that big question is out finally.
It
I
shouldn't have been a question to begin with.
I mean,
As
yeah, I
great
was
as
pretty
Taysom
sure I was
Hill was,
expecting it.
as great as Taysom Hill is at trick plays, he wasn't. What was he? Was he undrafted? I think.
Or it was pretty late. One of the two.
Like, let's look this up because, like, guys don't get drafted that late for no reason, and it wasn't just because he's already 31 years old and was like 27 when he came into the NFL. He was drafted. Why does it not fucking say on his Wikipedia? God damn it.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
Undrafted.
Oh, he was? Okay. But
Undrafted. So yeah,
like,
there's a reason why guys go undrafted. Like even fucking Brady was drafted somewhere. And like the fact of the matter is, as good as Taysom Hill was in gadget plays and trick plays are created and implemented to create separation.
Right.
And those are the throws that anybody who played quarterback at a college level should be able to make. The
Yeah.
fact of the matter is, you don't play a guy who you believe to be a franchise quarterback at the positions like on punt team like they did him.
I mean,
So,
I I could see where they're coming from a little bit. Like I don't think I think he's like okay, like slightly below average at your standard play.
right, but that's all he's ever going to be. He's 31.
Yeah. But yeah, again, like I didn't see a world where Winston wasn't winning the
Right. And
quarterback battle.
because Winston was also there last year on a 1 year deal. The fact that they brought him back, they probably were telling him, behind closed doors, it was his to lose.
Yeah,
Um,
it probably was.
and if Winston can minimize interceptions, which according to the preseason, it looks like he's going to be more than capable of doing now that he's not in Tampa and now that he's trying to make some uh, improvements, he's probably got a huge leg up on Taysom Hill being able to overtake.
Yeah. That was like the major thing going on in the Saints though, and I was like, when are they gonna announce it, man?
Yeah, it was stupid. And then around him, they still have Kamara, which is good. Kamara's on a huge contract,
Yep.
which nobody likes to fucking fill the salary cap like the New Orleans Saints. Because I think at one point, if they kept Drew Brees going into this year, they were going to be like at at the roster turnover like 100 million over the salary cap.
Yeah.
They just love giving out big deals. Michael Thomas is turning into Antonio Brown 2.0,
Mm-hmm.
where he's just throwing fits all over the place, and to the point where, like, playing fantasy football, and we'll touch on this in a bit, I don't want Michael Thomas. Like, the
Yeah.
dude's just going fucking apeshit.
Yeah. I don't think
So
either of us have Michael Thomas on there, do
no, but this magazine that I have here has him like number 6. And
we?
I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. That seems like pretty high for a fucking lunatic.
Yeah. All right. What's the last team we had today?
Broncos. And so
Broncos.
the Broncos are in an interesting position because they named Teddy Bridgewater as their quarterback. In the long list of teams who like to do that, which doesn't really mean anything by week 4.
Yep.
Drew Lock, I don't know if he's the better quarterback or not, but the Broncos not choosing Drew Lock for me kind of tells me where they are.
But
They're at a
at
point
the
of indecisiveness.
at the same time, I don't know, like I don't necessarily disagree that Drew Lock might not be the better quarterback at the beginning of the season, but I do think you're right in the sense that you're probably switching those two pretty early on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think Teddy Bridgewater is the game manager.
Yeah.
Um, like we talked about that before, is Daniel Jones ever going to become more than a game manager? We know what Teddy Bridgewater is. He's a game manager who has the ability to run.
Yeah.
Um, and that's great and all. They do have good running backs in Melvin Gordon and now I think it's Javonte Williams in the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is nice. They have good receivers in KJ Hamler, Cortland Sutton, and Jerry Judy.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and then they have Noah Fant at tight end. So they have a nice looking offense. The thing is the defense is old, and the question being at quarterback is never where you want the biggest question to be.
Yep. Yeah, that's
So
completely true.
I feel like their ceiling is somewhere around 500, but
I think
if
depending on
things
how long their quarterback, I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback that'll give them 500.
if things bend the right way, if one of their quarterbacks gets hot, I can see them sneaking into the playoffs, but they're not a team that can stop points from being scored anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
and you feel bad for Von Miller because that dude has stayed so loyal,
Yep.
and Imagine being told that you have to rebuild around this team and being like, I'm going to stay the course. And then just,
Yeah, it's not looking good.
Drew Luck falls apart. Teddy Bridgewater's here. And it's like, I know that they're capable of doing things that are winning football, but likely,
Probably not.
So, yeah.
All right. So those are the 4 teams that we went over. Let's move on to some stories that have been going around.
Sure.
So, yeah, Cam Newton had to miss 4 days of practice because of a misinterpretation of the COVID-19 protocols for the NFL.
Yeah, apparently you can go to a different state and get a test, but that doesn't really count as like NFL protocol.
Yeah. They'd have to stay
So,
within a certain range of the...
which is wild that he was fucking going to a different state to begin with. What the
But
fuck was that about?
what
Was
what
that
was
about like
wild
a
is
personal
the Patriots were sending him to that place.
Why? Like
Whatever.
I didn't read the full article, but like what were the Patriots doing sending him somewhere?
Uh,
I mean, but the other part of it is wherever they were sending him, he obviously wasn't going to be back in less than 4 days anyway.
No, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, the thing is, when he came back, he had to then miss another 4 days.
I'm sure Cam Newton is fine.
Yeah. Anyway,
His work ethic isn't the most impeccable specimen on an athlete.
Anyway, so the Bills have the Bills wide receiver got the vaccine after being fined for some reason.
Which I'm kind of surprised that players haven't done this, just because like fringe roster players either should have had the vaccine by now in order to not get fined.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It seems like they're giving away the vaccines for free. Could save you a boatload of money.
Yeah. And then Tennessee has an outbreak of 9, including Tannehill.
Right, and this is more funny, not in the sense that people are getting sick, but because they just can't stay away from COVID, no matter which variant it is. I mean, they were the team that had to postpone multiple games last year.
Yep.
Because they couldn't contain the outbreak. And then on top of it, went to a high school to practice. And so now here we go again. It's like Tennessee, what are you doing here?
Yep.
You got to learn from your mistakes. And same shit, different day. Or different year, I guess.
All right. So, yeah, that's the news we wanted to highlight. So, let's get straight into fantasy football.
Yeah. All right. So we decided to do top 5s, no particular order because nobody's giving away any insight for fantasy. So anybody who hears this is not draft strategy for you.
I mean, I'm
it
not going to
can
say,
be
like,
if you want to, but
top 5s are in any particular order. I just think that, like, in some cases, there's a clear number 1 and then the rest of the 4. But
yeah. All right. Well, I'll let you go first then with yours.
right. So, so for my 5 quarterbacks on this list, I have Mahomes, Allen, Wilson, Rodgers, and Prescott, even though I'm a Giants fan.
And this is Prescott considering the shoulder issues.
Yes.
Okay. I think he's going to limit himself a little bit more than people think. I know that guys who get out on the field like to try to prove to themselves that they can be the same guy. I don't know that Dak is that person.
But I just didn't see, like, when looking at the rest of the quarterbacks, I do think, like, some on your list could be, like, close to Prescott. I just didn't see that him limiting himself, like, I don't think he's going to limit himself so much. I still think, I still think he rounds out at least the top 5 or is pretty close.
I'm of the opinion that Dak Prescott is an extremely average quarterback who at best is going to be above.
Okay. And what about you?
And that's, I guess, just where we're different. And I agree with you. I have Mahomes, but then I kind of went towards teams that are going to throw the ball more if we're thinking fantasy football. Jameis Winston in Tampa Bay. Consider fantasy points. You get what, -1 point for an interception, but you get +6 points for a touchdown.
Isn't it -3?
I don't believe so. I thought it was -1. But anyway, regardless, you're still getting more points per touchdown than interception. So say Jameis does his 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions beat again. You're still generating 30 touchdowns worth. And in that year, I think he also threw for like 5,000 yards or 4,500, whatever it was. So that's just what the Saints love doing too. They love taking deep shots. They love throwing the ball. And so I think that Jameis is going to be given a chance to do big things. Um, and then Kyler Murray, AJ Green is older, yes, but AJ Green plus DeAndre Hopkins is going to free up a lot of open receivers in the slot and down the middle. And that's tempting, as well as you get the rushing yards out of him. Justin Herbert, because the Chargers never fucking run the ball. I know that you have Eckler on your running back list, which we'll get to in a second, but like, there's a reason why Austin Eckler is the #1 running back in LA for the Chargers. They
Yeah.
don't fucking run the ball. Like, and they never fucking did since LT left. Like, they had Melvin Gordon. And they tried to do the Melvin Gordon thing, but then when Melvin Gordon was like, and on the franchise tag, they were like,
Eh.
"Yeah, you don't really need him. Like, we got Eckler, we're good. We'll just throw 2 yard outs."
Mm-hmm.
And then Joe Burrow, I think, coming back from the injury, he's got Tyler Boyd, he's got Jamar Chase, and he's got who's the other one? But he's got weapons. CJ Uzomah is probably a little underrated as a tight end. Joe Mixon in the backfield who can catch when needed. Probably not that most reliable catching running back, but can catch as needed. He'll do fine.
Yeah.
And they've kind of stacked up the talent around Burrow for a reason. So I think that he probably comes back, and I actually think that when I say that Steelers are 2 or 3, I actually would think that the Bengals, if they play their cards right, could be 2.
Yeah. I mean, so like me looking at yours list, I nixed Jameis Winston only because I understand what the Saints want to do, but I don't know how much I trust him to be able to actually do so.
Right, but I'm taking the risk based on the potential
Right.
because
Yeah,
Jameis
I
Winston is
so I mean,
probably some.
I'm just like saying we have different, philosophies when it comes to picking a fantasy team, and that's kind of showing in our lists too.
Well, I think that Jameis Winston is at this point in time somebody they can maybe sneak in as your second quarterback
Hmm.
with the upside of being a bona fide #1
Right.
because I
I could
think
see that
that
too. But yeah,
big names like Mahomes and Allen and Wilson are great, but you know,
I mean,
there's
also
especially with Wilson and Rodgers, I feel like, and now Prescott too, they're an injury away, and they're not exactly safe from injury, from
right.
needing to be
And
replaced.
to be fair, I was looking at the quarterbacks on your list too. Like I was very close to picking some of them. I think the only one I nixed from your list just because I didn't trust, like I wouldn't take the risk of my first quarterback being Winston. So I
Yeah,
kind of just
no,
removed it from my list, right? But Burrow, Herbert, and Murray, I completely agree with you.
yeah. All right, so let's move on to running backs here.
Yes. Okay, running backs. You already got a small little thing. I put Austin Eckler on there because I figured the Chargers have to run sometime.
Oh yeah, that was like when we were doing I was doing graphics. Like the biggest shocker was you were like, that was your top 5 pick. I mean, no, I'm not saying
I
that I
mean,
don't see why it couldn't work. The
like the
question
other thing
is,
is I
it's a PPR back. Like
yeah.
he's not gonna get a lot of actual running plays.
Yeah,
Let's
PPR back
see
though.
here.
Like, and most leagues are PPR now anyway.
I just want to let you know because I have the magazine out here. Um, this magazine has him ranked 11th, but in terms of the yardage, for rushing yards in 2020, he had 530.
Yeah.
In 19, he had 557, and in 18, he had 554.
Yeah, but I'm looking at
So
like the
yeah,
whole like
you get PPR production, but if you're not in a PPR league, you
yeah.
get nothing.
I'm looking at it. I was looking at it through mostly a PPR lens anyway,
Yeah.
and that's mostly why he's slipped in up like just there.
Mhm.
Uh, he's a good, really good PPR back, and it's like it's not one that I'd probably pick like first, but you can probably squeeze him some in a later round.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
Uh,
otherwise I have McCaffrey, Kamara, Cook, and Henry.
and I think that McCaffrey he's potentially the number one bona fide one. My thing is guy coming off torn ACL, and
Yeah.
I was teetering on putting Barkley in over McCaffrey, and I think I ended up choosing Barkley for
Yes.
the reason that Barkley's got like the tree trunk legs, and if it's likely for him to have that shit happen again, is probably less likely.
Yeah, and
So
I
that's
mean
why I went with that.
he's only
But
McCaffrey's only there because he is literally like the number one bona fide pick, even though he is
right,
that torn.
regardless of PPR or not, he's gonna get you where you need to be.
Yeah.
Um, But Derrick Henry, I think he's got underrated hands. They don't throw to him a lot, but in a running back screen, he will catch those
Yeah.
passes. But I would rather have consistency in the run game and
Hmm.
know I'm going to get 1,200 yards, but like a third of the potential PPR catches. Uh, so that's just me.
Mm.
And Derrick Henry, for some reason, at this point in time, is still probably going to be like a second or third round pick because people don't think that he can catch. Um, Alvin Kamara, I do agree with because he just does both things really well.
Yeah.
And because the Saints do normally, they take the big shots when it comes to throwing, but they do a balanced play call, which always helps. Jonathan Taylor, because the question right now, especially with Colts quarterbacks, how healthy they are, but also because the Colts have a good offensive line and should be able to support that. And right now is probably the time to invest in Jonathan Taylor because he was heavily used in college, and you kind of have to use him in his first 3 years in the NFL for fantasy because eventually all that work he got in college is going to catch up to him.
Yep.
But I don't think it's time yet. And then Nick Chubb he's good at everything again, kind of like Kamara, but on a smaller scale. So,
Hmm.
I kind of mix it up, but I see more. I view things through a different lens than you do.
Yeah. Like again, I was looking like I had to put McCaffrey in there because he's the number one bona fide everywhere, and I see Eckler through a PPR lens. So, but yeah, all these running backs are pretty damn good. All right,
Yeah,
on
I
to
go ahead.
wide receivers. I think we're pretty close on this one too. So I had Devonte Adams, Stephen Diggs, Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins, and Calvin Ridley.
And I agree with a lot of that. There's no uncertainty in those picks. The only uncertainty is going to be double teams.
Yes.
Devonte Adams with Aaron Rodgers, if he's in the game, is going to be double teamed.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill probably isn't going to be double teamed as much because you can't allocate resources to somebody who's going to burn you
Yeah.
like. DeAndre Hopkins is going to get double teamed, and so is
Always.
Stephon Diggs. And Stephon Diggs will get his catches, but will he get the yards? That's my thinking.
Yeah. But also,
Calvin
again,
Ridley,
through a PPR, I'm really looking at catches at a more holistic scale. Because I think he can get a lot of catches. And that'll make up for a lack of yardage to some extent. Not all fully, but
yeah, I would agree with that. But I have DK Metcalf just because I think that he shows up when the moments are biggest. He's got the traits of um, being as tall and being able to go up and get it as Devontae Adams or DeAndre Hopkins, but he's got the speed, not necessarily of Tyreek Hill, but close. Um, and again, I agree with Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams because Tyreek Hill will beat people. Devontae Adams will beat people.
Hmm.
DeAndre Hopkins will beat people. But my X factor is Terry McLaurin just because, and I had him for fantasy last year. My thing is, um, they didn't always go to McLaurin as if he was a wide receiver one for Washington last year. And with Ryan Fitzpatrick there, I feel like he'll want to do that because that's what he did like with the Jets with Brandon Marshall and got that guy touches. He will get, if he has a true wide receiver one, he will get the guy touches. The question is if the offensive schemes will allow for Terry McLaurin to break out.
Right. That was my concern more so. Like I agree Terry McLaurin is a great X factor, but I just didn't really understand how Washington's like schemes and plays would allow him or basically more enable him to be the player he is. All right. Finally we have tight end. All right, so for tight ends, I have Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, Kyle Pitts, and Logan Thomas.
Okay. I
And
mean, those are the big names. I think Logan Thomas would probably crack my list too, except for the fact that he is now really uh, kind of established his role as a former quarterback turned tight end. He's in
mhm,
his prime. He's not going to get much better, but if he remains what he was last year, I don't see any reason why he can't take off.
yep,
Kyle Pitts is going to be a big target. I think that defenses are going to game plan for that just as much as Calvin Ridley. And also, I'm
my
reluctant to put Kyle Pitts in the top five as a rookie because
mm,
there's no guarantee that his game, as much as it looks like it can translate to the NFL,
yeah,
will.
okay,
We've seen busts before, and I do not put guys in my top five until proven talent is there.
right. And just like looking at our list, we have Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller both on all three of them on both our list.
And they're guys who have for certain years produced that way.
Yep,
I think that Robert Tonyan, again, any tight end that plays with Aaron Rodgers is going to get shots. He's not going to get, um, you know, 900 yards and 15 touchdowns, but he's going to get shots because
yeah,
eventually they have to throw away from Devontae Adams. And they still don't have great receivers away from Devontae Adams.
yep.
Um, in my X Factor, I know I just saw that he was hurt this Irv Smith Jr. of the Vikings because Kirk Cousins, I do not trust to throw to only wide receivers and running backs. I think eventually that fuck is going to do some shit where he just throws to a tight end. So if Irv Smith is healthy enough to play most of the year, I would bet that he was going to do that because Kyle Rudolph, who's now on the Giants, was there for years and years and Kyle Rudolph was like nothing outside of the red zone.
Yep.
But once they were in the red zone, Kyle Rudolph was getting the ball. So
Hmm.
if you want red zone targets, that's the guy.
Yep. Yeah. I I can totally see Robert Tonahan and Irv Smith is like more of a fringe for me, but
Mhm.
still good.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so there's our small little fantasy preview and continuation of looking at some of the NFL teams.
Yeah.
Got anything to close out with?
I mean, in terms of kickers, unless Matt Prater sucks, just fucking draft him. You'll get so many points just based
Dude,
off of
I think
him.
I think it's like Prater than the rest.
It's always Prater than the rest.
It's
Despite
like
the fact that Justin Tucker is good, despite the fact that Jason Sanders is good, until they fucking have the record, is prettier than the rest. Plus, he's in Arizona where the air is like flat.
Yeah.
So he might fucking break the record again.
Yep. All right. Thanks for tuning in and catch you next time.